welcome back to the Brotherhood of Gaming, where your jealousy continues to know no bounds. Viewers, do you like violent video games with all the explicit gore and the madness that makes you question your sanity? No? Well, it turns out there are a lot of people that actually do. In fact, they live for it. And it can't be denied that we all have a dark side, and we too love our fair share of the thrills and kills and all that good stuff. Which is why I'm going to rate my personal top 10 list of the most violent video games. Now keep in mind, this is not a very easy list to make, because it does have to be taken into consideration exactly what kind of violence it takes, whether it's atmosphere, the gore, or just the action itself. Well, we did do our best to fill the categories, so let's not waste any more time. This is the Brotherhood of Gaming's top 10 most violent video games. Number 10. The Grand Theft Auto series, I was debating whether these games should even be at the list at all. Sure, they're violent like many other games, don't you know? But what gets this game a spot is that you don't have to follow the story the game gives you. Instead, you make this world your oyster and do whatever you want, even if that means going on a citywide killing spree using any sort of possible method and weapon you can find. Plus decapiting someone because you felt like it, running over people on the sidewalk with the biggest car you can find, or hell, why stop there? Let's get a tank! You know what? I'm wrong. This is hardcore. And it does have its place here. Grand Theft Auto is just one of those worldly free games where you say screw the story and just go nuts and bloody murder. Number 9. When it comes to violence, the latest of the Resident Evil series has a lot to fall back on. The action of head popping and laying bullets and bombs inside of your enemies, making them explode, is equally enough to qualify. But the layout and the surroundings can also add to the meter, because in Resident Evil you can see some freaky, stuff. From women being impaled through the face to a wall, to chainsaw decapitations. Nasty. Though the early games did rely more on horror to give you a thrill, the series did evolve into a more violent, action-paced adventure, leaving many fans to debate whether that was a good idea. Well, whether it was a good call or a bad one, it racked up points to make its way to the list. Mercenaries can only do wonder and add more to it, since that's all you will ever be doing. Number 8. Tenchu. It's no surprise that a game about ninjas would make its way into the violent list. While Ninja Gaiden could likely make it too, Tenchu, in my opinion, is just a better choice all around. The blood squirting out of the body is, of course, easily a mention, but how some of these men are killed are pretty nasty enough to make you cringe. Check some of these out. Yeah, well, that pretty much sums it up. What more do you want from true ninjas? Number 7. Carmageddon. How do you take a racing game and make it so much more violently satisfying? The answer? Helpless old lady at 12 o'clock! Oh man, that is so violent and cold-blooded. It's awesome! Carmageddon is a racing game, but with one hell of a unique twist, and by that I mean a violent one. The goal is to get to the end before time runs out. But how does one get more time? Well, it goes along the lines of wrecking the other player's vehicle in style, risking their lives, as well as using your kill machine to run over and butcher as many pedestrians as you can. What makes this such a spectacle is the impact the pedestrians make with the car. I mean, damn! Twisted Metal wasn't this hardcore. Take it from us. If you weren't into racing games before, then come one and come all, you sick, gore-loving bastards. Carmageddon will change you. Number 6. Fuckhead! No More Heroes. This game has some pretty wild, violent blood action going on here. You play as Travis Touchdown, whose only goal is to be the best at what he does. And what does he do? He kills. And he's the good guy. Case in point, the violence here is played on a humor side of things. It's cringing to look at, and you will likely laugh at the deaths too, which makes you the sick bastard. Definitely one of the baddest of the bad. No More Heroes doesn't disappoint. Oh, and that lightsaber's clearly a Luke Skywalker replica. Surprising that Nintendo would have something like this on a family-friendly console. Number 5. How was Mortal Kombat not gonna be in this list? Growing up, it was the king of violence. In fact, back in 1992, the blood-gushing special effects was the very source of its popularity, making it a worldwide hit. Of course, in response to such ratings, the games kept coming and getting more bloody and intense with every sequel. The major popular thrill kills were, of course, the fatalities, in which a player would finish off his opponent in a brutal humiliation kill. For example, Reptile can— oh, God! Yummy. Sub-Zero can freeze you. I guess that's not that. Oh, okay, we see the point. Mortal Kombat is one of the baddest you can go. Enjoy. Number 4. Ah yes, God of War, one of the famed and beloved. You take control of a character named Kratos, who is one of the most brutal fictional game characters who probably takes pleasure in killing anything and everything in a very gory manner. They're mostly finishers, and it's not so much the kills that are what makes this game worthy. Although they are pretty graphic, it's more because of the character Kratos himself. He's just naturally a violent badass, and he's not a very easy person to understand. From what he does and goes through, he comes off like a villain. At one point he's working for the Greek gods in the hopes that he can be redeemed and lose his memory of his past crimes in which his family was murdered. But in the end, he doesn't get his wish, he becomes the God of War, and then ultimately turns on the gods and fights against them. Kratos' attitude the entire time comes off as totally hateful, and I don't remember ever seeing him smile. He'll kill you for the hell of it, and if it served him some pleasure, or if it serves him any purpose, he'll help you out. Probably not the most violent game ever, but God of War definitely has one of the most violent characters ever. Number 3. Naughty Bear. The simple story behind all this is on a little place called Paradise Island, and a bunch of bears live very happily, and one of the bears named Daddles has a birthday which the main character, simply known as Naughty, hasn't been invited to. Desperate for friendship, Naughty still tried to make the best efforts and make a gift for Daddles, hoping they would be friends. But unfortunately things don't go as planned when Naughty is turned away, which sends him over the edge, turning him into the Jason Voorhees of Paradise Island. So now, your goal as Naughty is, well, to punish everyone. Though there isn't any blood, you can still feel the impact behind the way some of these cute little furry people are killed. Sad to say that they are equally as funny. Definitely not for kids. Needless to say, there is a high violence factor here, but it serves in the comedy aspect. Is this in any way innocent? We'll leave you to decide. I simply state that he's the cutest little murdering furry bastard. And you'd be naughty to disagree. Number 2. Dead Space. It's fairly simple to imagine what kind of gore it uses to make itself known. Limbs. Everything that is alive in this series has 100% removable parts, and they are not afraid to show you how. Sad news is, most of it's going to happen to you. Number 1 rule of horror shows is never get attached to anyone. Though you can't help but get attached to Isaac, being he's our sole survivor of this nightmare. Looking on the what-if side of things and seeing him get brutally killed is sometimes enough to completely screw with your mind, which will leave you a permanent scar. Imagine if one of your favorite character icons got destroyed like this, say Mega Man for example. In short, it's never fun to see your limbs ripped off, but it's a very gory sight. Number 1. Mad World. Unbelievable. Nintendo, the most family gaming friendly company you know and love growing up, exclusively houses probably one of the most, if not the most, violent video game I have ever seen. You play as Jack Kamen, a former Marine / officer / who gives a shit, on a fictional island that is, well, bad. The island is so effed up that I can't exactly explain everything about it. You name it, it probably happened. But the island has become a game show in which everyone in its population has to murder each other for a vaccine to cure a poison that they've all been supposedly exposed to. It plays like No More Heroes, where Jack has to earn his way to become number 1. And why is this game number 1? Because this game was built for violence. To rack up score, you need to murder as many people as possible, including the boss, in the most brutal and screwed up way possible. The loading screens even give you tips on proper killing etiquette. It'd probably be best to show you a montage.
Oh, by the way, it also serves well for self-therapy. If you ever have a bad day at work where you just want to kill something or stop something from living or existing altogether, just pretend and let your imagination go wild. I feel better.
Bloody, brutal, and filled with more spikes than a platformer, Mad World, in our opinion, is the baddest of the bad.
You've been watching the Brotherhood of Gaming Top 10, and until next time, keep on gaming, you sick.
is a place we